Thank you very much. The first question dwelt on MPC decisions. It says that MPC decisions do not consider the banks because CRR is hurting the banks. Well, help us apologize to the banks. But the point is that we have our own work to do. As regulators, we have our own indices that we monitor. We have money supply and liquidity to monitor in the system. And depending on the level of liquidity that we find in the system and our own goals about how to control, how to achieve our price and monetary stability objectives, we didn't have any choice but to adopt those measures. And like we say, at this time, the central bank continues to maintain a tight stance. From the way you saw the votes, most people still voted that we should maintain the position. Minority feels, one person like you heard said, let us even reduce the CRR, while some say, look, let us even compensate them. We will continue to review what's happening in the market, and at some point in time, the MPC, where are 12 distinguished members, each having their own independent votes and voices, will take a position. And I'm sure maybe in the course of time, maybe at the length of the possibility, depending on data that is made available to MPC members, it might be possible at that time, and depending also on what is happening in the macro environment, to begin to look at easing bet. And I'm not saying that is the position. We will review the situation as we get there. The second question dwelt on the parallel market. Let me say that I do not agree, I strongly disagree when you say that most people patronize BDC. More than 95% of transactions that take place in the I use the word financial system that involves buying or procuring foreign exchange take place at the bank or interbank market. Indeed, let me underscore the fact that Nigeria appears to be the only country in the world today where the central bank is supporting the BDC activities. And I am saying again that I don't know what the direction will be, whether we will continue to or not. But the point we should note is that data available to Central Bank of Nigeria shows that most of the transactions that take place at the parallel market windows, rather than being for just retail trade, are people doing transactions for what we term as illicit business. And for that reason, I continue to wonder why people will continue to use the BDC rate, which constitutes an infinitesimal percentage of volume of transactions in the foreign exchange market, as a basis to asking us to determine exchange rate. We will not, we cannot, because we do not consider that market as a major market in the foreign exchange market. Radiant asked a question about strategies to build fiscal buffers. Well, I think it is always in the interest of every country to build fiscal buffers at times when we can say times of plenty, to prepare you for times of scarcity. Unfortunately, we are in times of scarcity, and I must confess to you that getting to build fiscal buffers, even though it's a target or an objective that we would like to pursue, is going to be difficult, but we will collaborate and work with the fiscal authorities to see how we can move in this direction. State bailout. It's important for me at this stage to mention or reiterate, if some of you have heard it, that a situation where there had been almost close to a 50% decline in revenue in crude prices, which correspondingly has led to more than 50% decline in our revenues from oil, and by extension has also resulted in a corresponding substantial drastic decline in revenues that state governments receive from the federal purse, naturally what you will find is that some of the states will get into the kind of situations that they get into today. So the point is that does a laborer deserve his wage? And my answer is yes, and most of you will agree that a laborer truly deserves its wage. And it is in consonance with that we thought that it is unfair for some people to work and not get paid after 30 days. Indeed, some of them have extended to as high as 5 to 6 months. We feel so sympathetic to their cause, and that is the reason that in discussions at the National Economic Council, and it was decided that the central bank should step in as the lender of last resort to come to the aid. It is not grant, it is going to be loans. The Central Bank of Nigeria, as well as the banks, as well and the commercial bank, will also be holding discussions with the commercial banks as to how to restructure their expenditure or revenue profiles, encourage more of them to diversify into internally generated revenues so as to boost their revenue base so as to eventually meet their own obligations. We are working on this, and in the course of time, some more details will be unfolded. You talked about the inflationary impact. I think that I agree to some extent when you talk about inflationary impact, but what is important is this, that this is money that should in the first instance have been in circulation, because people would normally expect that people to have earned their salaries. Not earning their salaries, I think, is something that earning their salaries at this time is what should override every consideration while we think of how to moderate its inflationary impact. The valuation, any plans? The point is that we had done a depreciation of a currency by almost about 22%. From 155 to 197 that it is today. And like we had addressed earlier, we cannot continue to adopt an indeterminate depreciation of our currency because of its impact on our people, given that this is a heavily import-dependent economy. So my answer is that the Naira is appropriately priced at this time, and we continue to monitor the situations, and in the course of time, if there is any need to change our positions, we would let you know. The issue of leakages. Yes, it is true that the president, based on pressures and based on his insistence that leakages must be blocked, there have been serious attempts to block leakages both in the Naira and in dollar. Some funds have been trapped in banks, and that is the reason there is a vigorous effort to ensure that we all embrace the Treasury single account, where all revenues collected must come to the center. And after the month, revenues will have come to the center based on the budget that has been approved for any agency of government, then whatever is due to them to meet their operational expenses will be given. But the first point is that all revenues must come to the center. In the course of this, I would like to confirm here there have been leakages that have been blocked, and as a result, you've seen some funds trapped in some areas now coming into the center, and hence part of the reasons you've seen the reserves build up. BDCs and activities regarding the BVN. My response to that is that all bank customers are expected to have a bank verification number. And I expect that the BDCs themselves will be dealing with people, because they are bank customers, they will be dealing with people who have bank verification numbers. It is important that we begin to embrace best practices, where transactions that take place in the banking or financial system can be monitored, but not that people just walk across the street and begin to buy or procure foreign exchange without proper identification. This is our own way of ensuring that people who patronize BDCs for retail foreign exchange transactions that are authorized must provide their bank verification number. That is what we're insisting, and we want to appeal to all those who are concerned to please assist us by adhering to this directive. Whether CBN is going to be intervening in the refineries, let me confirm that we've held, the central bank and the NNPC have held a couple of meetings, and I'm aware that I think Warri and Port Harcourt refineries have started to produce refined petroleum products. We are expecting that in the month of August, Kaduna refinery will also begin refining of petroleum products, and hopefully as they ramp up production, this will hopefully get to the level that is anticipated, or almost close to about 19 to 20 million liters per day, and hopefully, not hopefully, certainly, given that we project or is being forecast that daily consumption of PMS in Nigeria is almost about 30 million liters. Our own interest as central bank is that by this act alone, we are going to see a drastic reduction in the importation of petroleum products, which will ultimately help our reserve position and help us in our mandate, our objective to strengthen the exchange rate. Lastly, on the issue of access to foreign exchange by 41 items that have been excluded, let me respond by saying that the Central Bank of Nigeria's one of its major mandates is to build reserves and maintain or achieve strong exchange rate for the country. And I have always maintained since I became the governor of Central Bank of Nigeria that Monetary Policy Committee will, as much as possible, take decisions not only that help in achieving macroeconomic stability, but our decisions we take must be those decisions that will impact positively in the lives of our people. If our decisions are those that will impact positively in the lives of our people, it therefore means that we need to be able to make decisions that will create jobs. We need to make decisions that will resuscitate our dead and moribund industries. We need to take decisions that will ultimately lead to economic growth and development in Nigeria. I must thank those Nigerians or those who have called or written us to thank us for taking these decisions. These are hard times where there are limited resources. There is therefore a need for all of us to work with the government and the Central Bank of Nigeria to see how we can begin to curb some of our excesses. We are all witnesses to the fact that in the late 50s or in the 60s, Nigeria used to be, in fact, Nigeria had controlled 40% market share in the production and export of palm oil in the world. But things reversed. Those days, we will see our uncles, our brothers, our fathers, our brothers who own 50 palm plantation, or 100 palm trees, or even 200 palm trees. They look forward to the time when they will go to their palms when it is ripe and cut those palm trees. They convert those palm fruits into palm oil, and they crack the palm nuts and turn them into palm nuts. Young men who are craving for jobs come from the cities, and they buy those palm oil from them in jerry cans. They also buy those palm kernels, which they take to the cities. And that's where some of us who are currently developing the nostalgic feeling that this no longer happens are saying that we need to return back. Today, Nigeria imports almost close to 1 million metric tons of palm oil, when at a time in the 50s and 60s, we were producing palm oil for our own domestic consumption and also for export. At a time when resources are lean, I would like to appeal to Nigerians that this is time for us to go back to those days, where jobs will be created for our rural communities, and our mothers, our fathers, our uncles in the rural areas can begin to earn money for them to send their children to school and not export jobs outside the country. That is the message. Today we are aware, or let me go back, in the 80s and early 90s, if you went to Kano and Kaduna and some other parts of the north, cotton was being produced. Cotton will be ginned and turned into yarn. These yarns will be used in the textile industries, not only just in Kano, Kaduna, and northern part of the country, but also in the southern part of the country. And for those of us who know Lagos very well, between Anthony and Mile 2, the left and the right side of Apapa Oshodi Express Road used to be dominated by textile industries. We had Afprint. In Igomu, we had President Industries. President Industries at Igomu used to produce the best Guinea brocades in this country in the early 90s. Today, President Industries premises at Igomu has been turned into a warehouse where we store imported tiles and imported granite. You can go there. It's there on the Ijora Causeway. What has Afprint become today? Afprint has been turned into a warehouse that receives imported rice, imported textile, and imported palm oil. GDM Textile is a warehouse that has been turned into a warehouse that receives imported rice, imported textile, imported oil. That is the way what we have done to our country by exporting jobs to other countries. I think it is time for us to rethink and come back to terms with the fact that we need to create jobs for our people. I'd like to seize this opportunity to please appeal to those of us, the manufacturers or Lagos Chamber of Commerce, who are willing to engage them. The Central Bank of Nigeria, in collaboration with the Nigerian Deposit Money Bank, will work with them, assist them, continue to act as financial catalysts that will help these institutions and these industries to come back to life, create jobs for our people, improve economic growth, and contribute to our GDP positively. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Governor. I think that's the end.